Hello, credit union community. Here are your 3 topics for today's show. First, the top 10 credit unions are now paying significantly more than the rest of the industry. Is this the beginning of a full-blown talent war? Next up, congratulations. You're in a new leadership role, but the clock is ticking. What are your first 3 big moves? And finally, a credit union has launched its own stablecoin. But what does that really mean, and why should you care? Welcome to Grow Your Credit Union, the podcast where credit union leaders gather, learn, and grow. I'm your host, Joshua Barkley, and rocking with me in the co-host chair is Becky Reed. Howdy, Becky.
Howdy, y'all.
Before we get into things, I want to first mention our sponsor, SBS Cybersecurity. You will hear more about them later in the show. Okay, Becky, I normally ask you for what we call a banter topic. This is where you and I get to know each other a little better. I've kind of been controlling these, but I want to know, what's in your mind, Becky? What do you want to throw out there for our banter today? I'm putting you on the spot.
You are putting me on the spot. So I would ask you, Joshua, you travel not as much as I do, but you're in, circles. You get around. What would you say is the best credit union event or banking event for that matter that you usually go to? One that you look forward to going to every year?
Ooh, Becky, you put me on the spot.
Hey, you put me on the spot. So now I'm going to put you on the spot.
So I'm a little bit biased because I'm from New England, so I really like Future Branch's Boston. I don't know if it's more to do with Future Branches or it's more to do with the fact that I'm in Boston. I love just the vibe of Boston altogether, so I'm going to have to say Future Branch's Boston. So I'm going to go Future Branch's Boston. I'm going to hit you with the same question. What do you think is your favorite event?
And I also am a little bit partial to one particular conference, and that's the NACUSO conference. So I'm a big CUSO fanatic. Of course, I'm on the board of NACUSO, but that is one of the events that I look most forward to every year.
I'm going to put that as my honorable mention because that was actually the first credit union event that I'd ever been to in my career. So there is a little place in my heart for NACUSO. So shout out to them. I love that event. Becky, we got a cool show today. I love when guests come back on the show. That's my favorite thing, right? So our guest, he's back for a second time. He's got a new role. He's the president and CEO at Arizona Central Credit Union, Brian Lee. Brian, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey guys, it's great to be back. Thanks for having me.
The 10 largest credit unions now pay their workers much more than the rest of the industry. In a recent CU Times article, they reveal a growing compensation crisis between the industry's titans and everyone else. So, according to this article, the top 10 credit unions by asset size now pay their employees $25,000 more a year than the rest of the industry in salary. I was reading this and I'm thinking to myself, whoa, this pay gap, it puts an enormous pressure on smaller, mid-sized credit unions to compete for talent. So what I'm wondering after reading this, Brian, how are you addressing compensation competitiveness and sort of what creative strategies are you using beyond base salary to attract and retain top talent?
That's a great question. Well, I'm going to first of all flip this around a little bit and talk about how this is a benefit for the credit union movement really in total. Is we've got high paying jobs and it's an industry that people want to get into. And so whereas it maybe expands the reach of some credit unions to have to fight for that talent or pay that, I think there's still plenty to go around and we have great talent. And now it's really seen as an industry where you can come in and grow and find opportunities either within your own credit union you start at or moving up to different levels as well. So I think it opens up opportunity. But yeah, it is we're constantly fighting for talent, and even we're based out of the Phoenix market. We're spread throughout the state of Arizona. We're not just competing with other credit unions or banks for talent. We're competing with some very strong employers coming into our market that we need to try to convince them to come work with us. And so aside from pay, pays always has to be competitive. We want to make sure that people are living comfortably and they're compensated for their work. But I think that next step is saying, okay, what can we do? Pretty much everyone we have is either hybrid or we have some remote workers. So that's something that is very desirable right now. It's retirement benefits, it's time off, it's even just opportunities for growth. And I think that's something that a lot of credit unions can offer. And the way we have to look at the development of the individuals that come work with us is what opportunities can we give them within the credit union to grow, but also just growing while they're here. And whether that's they're going on to bigger and better things, and maybe they're getting that big payday somewhere else, is being happy for them as they reach that as well. So we have something that's really good. We have something that people value, that they feel good about the work we do. But on top of that, they can develop themselves and they can be ready for those opportunities that come within our credit unions or elsewhere.
Becky, you hear this story, the top 10 credit unions pay $25,000 more in annual salary than the rest of the industry. Overall, what are your thoughts, just high level on that story?
Well, I'm going to tell you something that you probably don't know, Joshua, about how credit unions decide how much to pay their employees. And certainly there are economic factors, there's regional factors. But what's interesting about our industry is our pay scales are often related to our asset size. So the smaller credit unions have a lower pay scale than a larger credit union. And there's reasons for that. There's legitimate reasons for that. Because a larger credit union is generally more complex. A larger credit union has a lot of different levels and tiers of employees, right? So, the call center might have 6 or 7 different types of employees that work in a call center from, a foundational level all the way up to an executive level. Whereas a small credit union may only have just call center employees and that's it. And they report up to maybe a VP of operations or something like that. So I think, though, that methodology that we've been using from a pay scale perspective has skewed a little bit the pay ranges for employees. So, for example, if I'm a VP of operations at a $50 million credit union, I probably have 3 direct reports, and I'm pretty much running the entire credit union, probably, from lending to retail to, deposit ops. I mean, everything, call center, every member service person probably reports to the VP of ops. Whereas I can go and I can get a VP of ops at a $350 million credit union and probably double my salary. Now, I'm going to have more direct reports. It's going to be a more complex organization. My job is going to be a little bit broader. But I think that in some cases, if you're comparing apples to apples, that might be why there's a $25,000 more a year when you're looking at the same role. So I would question a little bit that statistic because I'd want to dig into the data a little bit more to see if that's really true at the end of the day.
Yeah, great point. The implications, Brian, back to you here, are this competition for talent. But I guess the real question for me to kind of stress test this whole entire story is, are you seeing staff getting poached by larger banks or CUs due to higher pay? Like, how prevalent is that?
We really aren't. I mean, I think we've got some big credit unions and banks in our state. We have some other large out-of-state credit unions that have moved in as well. And we do see some of that, but it's not so prevalent that like, man, we can't hold on to people because they just keep going, right? Like there's still, even though they employ a lot more people and maybe pay more, there's still a limited amount of jobs available at those places, right? So we're not going to lose our whole workforce going to leave for $1 more or whatever it is. And I think for the most part, and kind of what Becky was saying, I think we compete on a lot of our positions I'd say the majority of our positions are priced right with our market. And where I think you're going to see those bigger gaps is as you move up and as you have these VPs or C-level, that gap widens quite a bit. That probably increases that average a lot more than if you go to an MSR or a teller or, call center rep. It's going to be pretty similar anywhere you go, right? So then at that point, you have employees that are just choosing culture, they're choosing quality of life, they're choosing all those things that I think are more important to people rather than, maybe this place is slightly higher or slightly lower. They're going to find somewhere that fits in and that gives them opportunity for growth as well. So I think we compete really well for the majority of those positions. It's just going to be that question, what talent are you getting in at maybe those next levels, or do you rely on developing internal people, or are you looking at saying who can I recruit that's coming from out of state and this high level, whatever.
What would you say if I told you AI wrote this? Well, it did, with a little human help. And if it can do that here, imagine what it could do for your credit union, or what it could do to your credit union in the wrong hands. AI is already transforming how you operate, powering fraud detection, lending, and member experience. And it's accelerating. 2 out of 3 credit unions now plan to use AI for credit decision-making. That kind of innovation brings responsibility and risk. Cyber criminals are already experimenting with AI to mimic member behavior, generate phishing content, and exploit weak governance. That's where SBS Cybersecurity comes in. With 20 plus years of experience and partnerships with credit unions nationwide, SBS delivers cybersecurity built for credit unions, helping you lead confidently in the AI era. Because as much as AI can do, it still needs the power of you and the expertise of partners like SBS Cybersecurity. Learn more at sbscyber.com. SBS Cybersecurity, built for credit unions like yours. Brian, let's talk about executive transitions. You recently stepped into the CEO role at Arizona Central Credit Union. You replaced the retired Greg Harden in April of this year. So for our listeners stepping into new leadership roles themselves, I want you to hook them up with some advice, because I think the first moves can define a lot about a new role. So my question for you, Brian, what were your first 3 major priorities when you took the helm at Arizona Central Credit Union?
So this time, I was in the CEO role at my last place, and I was an internal hire that time, right? So this is a little different for me because I came in as the outside guy. And so it's a different playbook a little bit because you're coming in to an established culture, established employees. We have a great group over here. So it's not necessarily me coming in and establishing everything I want to do and getting it done right away. So my first step was coming in and was really listening to understand where we've been, where we're going. I mean, we've been an organization for over 80 years. So there's a lot of history here, and I'm just this little part of it coming in right now. So I have to understand what that history is, what the recent history is, who do we serve, who are our members. We have a very diverse membership all across the state. We have people that have a different reason why they belong to the credit union. And so that was my first thing I did is listening, from our members' point of view, from our employees' point of view, who are loyal employees and why they liked working here. And then I'd say second, and maybe that's concurrently with number 1, is being very clear about what my vision was for the credit union and being able to communicate that to the credit union. And I know it's something that I've realized is a lot of what I say and the words I use are listened to very carefully when you come into a new place. Right? If you mention the word efficiency, that's going to set off, that means whatever, I had to be very careful on the words I chose, but also I've let them know from the beginning, hey, clarity is very important to me, and I will be out front with what I expect from you, but what I expect us to do as a credit union. And so I try to communicate that very well to everyone. I've been around, met with all the branches, try to meet as much as I can with staff one-on-one and in their departments so that they know who I am. So that's kind of that second point, maybe mixed with number one at the same time. And then third is when we have where we've been, where my vision is to be really successful. It can't just be me pushing what I want, right? It has to be mixing that with creating a culture together and creating a shared vision of who we want to be as a credit union. And so that's stuff that we've done. We just had our strategic planning session with our board and our senior team, which went really well. And having those open conversations of not just what I want, but hey, what does the board expect from us? What do our members need from us? And then coming up with that together. And then once we all understand and we're very clear on that vision, then that's where we can get to work and achieve big things. If it's a big secret, if it's just one person driving it, you're not going to have the same results. And so I'm really excited. I think those three things over the last few months have kind of come together, and now it's just time to get to work. And, I feel that's my job now, to hopefully inspire people and to lead and show where we're going. So I'm really excited for that next stage.
Becky, you are no stranger to leadership roles, credit union world, fintech world. When you're jumping into a new role, what are those kind of first three things or the first few things that you're thinking about to orient yourself? Like, okay, I'm jumping in. These are the things I need to do.
I think for anyone new coming to the organization, there is a period of time that you are standing outside of the forest where everybody else is inside of the forest, right? So there are things that you see that others don't because they've been entrenched, right, in the forest for a long time. And so I think that the first 60 days or 90 days or so before you get into the forest, you should ask a lot of questions. Why you do it like this, or what is this all about? And sometimes you'll get some good historical context as to why that is, and other times you'll just get a deer in the headlights where it's like, I don't really know why we do it like that. Because oftentimes people who are coming from the outside, whether it's a CEO or anybody else, have done things a different way at another organization, and so they might have a different perspective. But I read an article one time about the Levi's CEO. So Levi's had a change in leadership, and the Levi's CEO came in. And what I thought was really amazing about that article, and I completely agreed with what he did, he went around for his first 90 days and he asked every single employee the same three questions. What he said was he went on a listening tour, right? This isn't about me. This isn't about what I want to do. This isn't about my agenda or the board's agenda or anything else. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to ask every single employee three things. What is something we need to stop doing today? What is something we need to start doing today? And what do we need to leave alone? And I think that is from a leadership perspective coming in. I think that you will get a very clear understanding of the culture, because everybody's going to have a difference of opinion. Somebody new might say something different than somebody who's been there for 25 years, but you're going to get a very holistic picture of the organization and what the culture is really like, regardless of what is painted up on the wall.
Brian, last thing I want to bring to you is, you're at Landings. You've had an opportunity to kind of ruminate on maybe the mistakes you've made, the wins you've had. When you're thinking about where you are now in your career and you're thinking about some of the things you wish you had done differently, what would be kind of the number one thing where you're like, man, I wish I would have played that a little different early on?
Wow, that's a great question. I think early on in my last role, there was a few times where I was maybe a little too careful. I'm a former examiner, auditor, and so risk is always heavy on my mind. And I think there's a few areas when we talk about innovation and driving progress that I think as credit unions as a whole, we tend to kind of sit back a little bit and not being on the leading edge. And I think there were a few cases that I look back where I said, okay, maybe we could have pushed here. Maybe we could have tried a little harder somewhere else, or just picking those opportunities that you have. It's not on everything. You don't have to take a risk on every single thing that comes up, but kind of choosing a battle and saying, all right, this is going to be an area where we lead and we push forward. So I think we had some of those opportunities, but I think there's a few other areas where if I went back, I probably would have said, yeah, I could have maybe pushed that a little bit more, or got to that next stage a little faster. So that's something now that I've brought here, that as we look at that and saying, hey, when are those opportunities where we're going to swing for the fence and say, let's stand out and let's be different, rather than just saying, you know what, we've been doing this for 80 plus years. We can keep doing that, and we can be good. We can be good and stay in business and take care of our members, and that's fine. But where do we want to stand out, and where do we want to be special? And so let's find those things that we can really be a differentiator in the community and in the movement. So those are the things I'm looking forward to going forward.
St. Cloud Financial Credit Union. They are a 407-ish million institution in Minnesota. They're launching what they claim to be the first stablecoin from a U.S. credit union, and they're calling it the Cloud Dollar Token. It's planned for late 2025, and everyone is saying that it represents a shift in how smaller financial institutions are thinking about how they compete with fintech companies. Brian, how is your credit union approaching the digital asset space? Let's just start there.
I'm excited to hear from Becky on this one. I know she's the expert here, but yeah, I mean, it's something that's definitely coming up in conversation, and something that we've spent time looking through and saying, once again, we haven't been on the leading edge of this, right? We're not issuing our own token right now, but we're trying to see, okay, where's this going? Who's going to come out on top of this? Like, where are we going to have America's Credit Unions token? Are we going to have, I know there's different states that are trying to create their own token, and we're going to have, like, there's got to be at some point, it's just like crypto, right? Like, who's going to be the Bitcoin? Who's going to be the one that's that partner? Or is the infrastructure going to be there that every credit union has their token? Definitely, I'm not the expert, but it's understanding it enough to say, we have to be at the table with these conversations, because at a certain point, this is moving a lot faster than I think people expected. And so if we sit there too long and say, yeah, it's nothing, it's not big, it's a disservice to our members, it's going to put us in a bad spot, and then we're going to be left behind. At the same point, we're having those conversations saying, well, we're not necessarily going to be the first one to issue our own stable coin. So I really appreciate when we have credit unions, or there's state governments or whatever that are doing the work to kind of pave the way for us and say, hey, here's what worked, here's what didn't. At the end of the day, it's how is our members going to adopt this? How are they going to use this? I think it's a great benefit to move money faster and securely, but we have to understand who has the liability, who's in charge of moving this, who has the right tools for it. So yeah, we're here for it. We're just not quite ready yet.
Becky, let's jump back to the top of this particular story. St. Cloud announcing that they're issuing the first stable coin. What does that mean to you? Like, as someone like yourself who really is paying attention, like, you know more about this stuff than just about anybody on the planet right now. You're so forward thinking. So when you hear this story, what does it actually mean? How do I make sense of this? Should I care? Is this big?
So first of all, I would challenge that they were the first, but because I know we worked with the credit union to issue one before they made their announcement. And, there were some people experimenting with this stuff several years ago as well. So I know that was the headline, but I'm not going to talk about that. What I want to talk about is really what this whole stablecoin thing means. A stablecoin is just a digital asset. It's a cryptocurrency. A stablecoin, as the Genius Act says, is a payment token. It is a mechanism by which people make a payment, and it happens to be equal to a US dollar because it is backed by a US dollar, but it is a digital asset that rides on a distributed ledger. That is what a stablecoin is. No different than any other digital asset that you see out there, cryptocurrency, right? Whether it be Bitcoin, whether it be Ethereum, whether it be Dogecoin, whatever the case may be, all of them are living on a distributed ledger. And one thing that your members are asking for, and you find it in the data, is cryptocurrency. They buy cryptocurrency. And if you think your members are not buying cryptocurrency, I need you to go and look at your data, Google the top 5 digital asset exchanges and see how much money is going out to those. And if there's any at all, that means your members want to buy digital assets. A stablecoin is just a digital asset. So if you want your members to interact with stablecoin, you're going to have to give them access to purchase digital assets. So that being said, let me talk a little bit about credit unions issuing a stablecoin and the comment that Brian made about everybody and their brother having a stablecoin, which is true, and why I think that that is an interesting scenario, and also why I think that there isn't going to be one stablecoin to rule them all. That's not going to happen. So there's this thing in the Web3 space and the DeFi space, in the distributed ledger space, called interoperability. So in order for me to move from the Ethereum chain to the Ripple chain, I have to convert my Ethereum token to an XRP token. That is called interoperability. So those two tokens get swapped. Now I've moved over to the Ripple chain, and now I'm doing transactions on the Ripple chain. So every chain has their own native token, and stablecoins are going to be similar, but the interoperability is even easier because they're all worth $1. So everyone and their brother is going to come out with a stablecoin. Fiserv has already partnered with a stablecoin issuer. Circle Fund has invested in a stablecoin issuer. Every financial institution, according to the Genius Act, if they want to issue their own token, they have to do it through a third-party issuer. They can't do it themselves. Do I think every credit union needs to have their own stablecoin? No, I don't. That's silly. I don't think that that makes sense. Now, St. Cloud and other credit unions, like a credit union that we're working with, the reason they wanted their own stablecoin is because they were going to use it internally for a rewards program. And I think that makes perfect sense to do. I don't think it makes sense to tell your members you have to use XYZ credit union stablecoin in order to make payments. And if your merchant, doesn't accept that, then, oh, well, that's not how it's going to be. Your members are going to buy stablecoin, and they could have 25 different stablecoins that they buy that might have a particular use case. So there might be an agriculture stablecoin that is most used in the agriculture industry. There could be a medical stablecoin that's most accepted in the medical industry. There could be a certain financial stablecoin that's most used in the financial space. And so, but all those have to be interoperable behind the scenes. So if I have an ag coin and I want to use that at the doctor, that interoperability needs to happen behind the scenes, where now my ag coin turns into the metal coin, and now that's given to the doctor. And all that happens behind the scenes. Your members don't need to know anything about it, but it's just a payment, guys. It's just a payment. Your members are not going to walk in your credit union and say, you know what, I need you to help me make payments, because that's what you already do. You already do that. So what they are going to say is, my farmer's market doesn't take credit cards anymore. They want to take a stable coin. Why can't I use my credit union app to do that? That's what they're going to ask for. And so that's what we as credit unions need to be prepared for. There are tons of really cool use cases like the rewards program that I talked about. But at the end of the day, if your members are going to use stable coins as payments, your credit union needs to be connected to distributed ledger rails, and you need to allow them to buy digital assets. And not only buy it, they should be able to use it to spend. So they have to send it out too. It's not just an investment platform. They have to be able to send it and receive it in. So it can be a P2P type of mechanism. So think about it as just another payment.
For the sake of time, I won't give you follow-up because I have enough follow-up for 5 years on this topic.
We could do a whole show on this.
We need to do a whole show. We need to talk about how Grow Your Credit Union, the Grow Your Credit Union token. I'm ready to get on the blockchain myself.
Let's do it. We'll spin it up for you today, Joshua.
Let's jump into the wrap-up Brian, final thoughts. Maybe anything you want to talk about that we discussed today, or maybe you want to freestyle rap. I don't know. But final thoughts. What do you got?
Well, I'll hold off on the rapping for next time. That's the third show, yeah. No, I'm excited for the industry. I think there's a lot of cool things going on, and I don't know. I think there's challenges. There's in the environment that we're working in, but I think we have a lot of opportunities as credit unions to lead in a lot of these spaces. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to the things that we're going to accomplish going forward. And I'm glad we got people like both of you that are leading these conversations and make sure that we're talking about these things, because I think that's the most dangerous thing we could do is just ignore these changes coming on and saying, let's just keep doing the things that we've always done. And so let's keep moving forward and make some progress here.
And you are hiring, Brian. If you want to throw that out there, anyone listening who's like, man, I want to work for Brian Lee.
We are. I just pulled up. We've got 5 open positions right now in the branches and mortgages, call center, commercial lending, digital bankers we've got going on right now. So we're always looking for amazing people. And like I said, we're spread out throughout the state. So if you're looking for a great place to be, we really feel like Arizona Central's just a great place that's going amazing places. And we want some very solid people that want to get stuff done.
And if somebody wants to get in touch with you, Brian, what's the best way to go about that?
If you want to look me up, probably LinkedIn that I'm on a lot. If you want to look me up, Brian Lee at Arizona Central, you should be able to find me. So yeah, reach out to me.
Becky, final thoughts?
So there's a phrase that our CEO here at Bank Social says all the time, and it's he didn't originate the phrase, but he repeats it. I don't know who said it first. If Henry Ford would have asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. And so I think that we just need to keep that in mind. We are the subject matter experts. I used to tell my staff, we are the doctor, be the doctor, and prescribe the right solution for our members. And so I think it's up to us to show them what a horseless carriage actually looks like.
That's great, Becky. And if anybody wants to get in touch with you to talk about how they can speed up their horse, what's the best way to do that?
LinkedIn, baby.
Brian Lee, I want to thank you for joining me today. Becky, I want to thank you for being the best co-host in the world. And I want to thank our sponsor, SBS Cybersecurity. If you want to learn more about them, visit sbscyber.com to learn more. Thanks to our listeners for continuing to support and listen to another episode of Grow Your Credit Union. If you like the show, please follow us on your podcast player of choice. If you want to be a guest, or you would like to talk about sponsorship opportunities, head to growyourcreditunion.com to learn more. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.